You can hear them before you see them. Branches snap. Mud explodes under massive hooves, and a low, guttural roar rolls through the swamp like distant thunder. This is no ordinary hunt. It's a confrontation. For weeks of dominance, Sounder crushed fields and outsmarted every trap. Cameras caught only flashes of tusk and muscle. At its center, a scarred, hulking boar that tests bait, studies the ground, and vanishes with a herd at the first hint of danger. Tonight, we changed the rules. The trap was silent. The wind cut our scent, and the cameras lay deeper than ever. As dusk ripped across the tree line, a shadow moved, then another and another. The lead boar stepped out, head low, tusks bared, eyes cold as flint. One wrong move would unleash a stampede. No bungled triggers, no wasted shots. This was a fight of minds against muscle, a battle where patience, timing, and ice-cold nerve decide who survives. When it erupted, the swamp turned to chaos, and you won't believe what followed. We had one shot. After the hook, the trap line went silent, and every breath became a decision. Months of scouting taught us the Sounder's habits. Narrow funnels, skirted openings at first light, and a ritual of testing bait like detectives sniffing for a lie. The lead boar set the rules. The herd obeyed. Our plan was surgical, not brute force. We rebuilt the trap with heavier anchors, double cable runs, and raised a low-profile corral that looked like ordinary brush. Night felt like a held breath. The first pass showed a single boar at the edge, cautious and circling. He sniffed, snorted, and moved on. That was the script. Test, probe, withdraw. Then, just before midnight, the Sounder fed in a line, wave after wave moving toward the trap. They advanced low and slow, piglets tucked inside, sows shielding the young. The lead boar paused, evaluated the entrance, and stepped forward. One precise second decided everything. When the boar entered, we did not flinch. No panic triggers, no early pulls. The net fell like a fist, fast, clean, complete. Chaos exploded. Hogs slammed into metal in each other. Dirt flew. The air filled with guttural roars and heavy thuds. Our teams moved with practice calm. Flashlights pinned motion, padded nets and ropes were deployed, and trained hands secured animals. Humane protocols came first. Immobilize, assess, and minimize suffering while keeping crews safe. At dawn, the tally was sober. Several large sows, 2 boars, and a clutch of juveniles secured. This cohort, left unchecked, would have rapidly replenished the population. Removing them eased immediate pressure on farms and, more importantly, produced critical intelligence, movement corridors, scent lanes, and the exact cues the lead boar used to test risk. Every trail was marked, every camera clip archived, and footage sent to wildlife biologists for analysis. The aftermath required community coordination. We organized sanitary collection and processing for usable meat, worked with landowners to move feed and close predictable attractants, and scheduled rotating trap nights to avoid teaching survivors new avoidance behaviors. The absence of the lead boar altered the herd's calculus. Routes thinned, feeding became scattered, and fields began to recover. But this was a tactical victory, not an ecological cure. Long-term control requires layered strategy, continuous monitoring, disease surveillance at water points, habitat modifications to reduce congregation, and regional coordination to stop displacement. where predator recovery is appropriate. Protecting corridors can amplify juvenile mortality and reduce recruitment. Managers must plan in years, not nights. This night proved the value of patience, precision, and humane practice aligned with ecological insight. You do not outmuscle a sounder. You outthink it with data-driven tactics and steady community work. Even the toughest adversary can be outplayed. The campaign continued, smarter and more focused. Stay vigilant. The land will tell you what to do next. Now, the campaign shifted from tense nights to steady stewardship. A single trap can prove a point. Sustained success needs systems. Teams built monitoring networks, camera grids, trail sensors, and shared carcass reports that turned absence into actionable data. Small shifts in movement, a new trail, or a change crossing time signaled pressure, rebuilding long before crops were wrecked. Early, targeted interventions prevented major losses and reduced needless disturbance. Regional cooperation became essential. Landowners synchronized bait schedules, secured feed, and agreed on sacrificial buffer strips to protect core crops. Coordinated action removed the safe neighborhoods hogs relied on and forced surviving groups to spread thinner, lowering recruitment rates. Education programs taught humane handling, sanitary carcass disposal, and simple habitat fixes that made fields less attractive without heavy investment. Disease surveillance acted as an early warning system. Regular testing at wallows and water sources, rapid necropsies, and protocols for disposal reduced transmission risk. When viral surges appeared, managers adjusted feeding and increased carcass collection to dampen outbreaks. In areas where large carnivores were present, protecting movement corridors amplified juvenile mortality and altered hog behavior in ways that complemented human measures. Policy and funding followed what worked. Agencies invested in long-term monitoring and community liaisons rather than sporadic eradication budgets. Grants supported diagnostic labs, camera networks, and regional coordinators who translated data into action. Adaptive management, small tests, careful monitoring, iterative scaling replaced one-size-fits-all campaigns. Humane practice and transparency mattered. Clear protocols, community benefits from processed meat, and open reporting reduced conflict and built trust. Farmers who saw fewer destroyed fields became advocates, sharing data and aligning efforts across properties. When neighbors collaborate, the spatial logic that once favored hogs breaks down. The quiet field that started this story wasn't an accident. It was a visible outcome of layered pressures, predation, disease dynamics, habitat change, amplified by smart human choices. That silence is neither permanent nor complete, but it shows a path. Manage in years, not nights. Monitor continuously, act surgically, coordinate regionally, and prioritize humane, evidence-based methods. If you manage land, start with a camera grid and a neighbor meeting. Build from data. Protect water, rotate bait, secure attractants, and link reports into a shared system. Long-term resilience grows from simple, sustained steps. The fight against feral hogs is not a single triumph. It's a campaign of many small, intelligent moves. When communities align and science guides action, landscapes can recover, and the silence becomes a rule rather than an exception. Act now, monitor, coordinate, think long-term. The final chapter reframes success as a process, not a moment. The quiet field that opened the story shows a system that can be nudged toward balance, but balance requires persistence and partnerships. Short campaigns that celebrate a single trapping night often fail because they ignore slow variables, pathogen cycles, juvenile recruitment, predator presence, and habitat shifts that push animals back into problem areas. Start with monitoring. Continuous camera grids, routine carcass reporting, and periodic serology build a baseline that reveals trends before catastrophe. New trails, a changed crossing time, or repeated visits to one water point show up in data long before crops are wrecked. Turn those signals into early action. Targeted responses cost less and avoid broader ecological disruption. Embed coordination. The spatial logic of feral hogs, sounders moving through funnels and shared water, means individual fixes often fail unless neighbors align. Create local forums, share camera feeds, synchronize bait schedules, and agree on sacrificial buffer strips. Community action makes the landscape harder for hogs to exploit. Disease protocols are essential. Maintain rapid testing, enforce sanitary carcass disposal, and limit scavenging. Viral surges and spillover rise when carcasses remain exposed. Veterinary partnerships and funded diagnostic capacity make isolated events manageable. Policy and funding must follow evidence. Agencies should prioritize long-term monitoring grants, support community coordinators, and fund adaptive pilots instead of episodic eradication drives. Where predator recovery is lawful and socially viable, protecting corridors can amplify natural control. Where predators cannot be supported, invest in habitat changes and disease surveillance. Human behavior changes are low cost and high impact. Secure feed, reduce artificial water access, rotate bait locations, and plant buffer crops to absorb early foraging. Train landowners on humane handling, carcass sanitation, and consistent data collection so management is both effective and socially responsible. Plan for surprises. Exotic diseases like African swine fever could alter dynamics rapidly. Contingency plans, rapid response teams, and flexible funding enable coordinated action when minutes matter. Practice drills and clear reporting lines save time during crises. Adopt an adaptive mindset. Test interventions at small scales, monitor results, and scale what works. Celebrate steady improvements. The field that goes quiet, the camera that stops recording nightly routing. Not as endpoints, but as feedback. Manage in seasons and decades, not nights. If you take one thing from this film, control is not domination. It is alignment. When people, policy, and science move together, landscapes can recover. Start with cameras, organize neighbors, secure attractants, and fund monitoring. The silence is fragile, protected by acting wisely and persistently. The work continues. The path is clearer.